Palestinians are being murdered whether they kill Israelis or whether they sleep in their beds. It makes no difference. So will they kill Israelis? Of course they're going to kill Israelis.
On October 6th, I told you
Do I want Israelis to die? Of course not. I don't want anybody to die. But we have to talk about a realistic solution. And the realistic solution is not to pretend that you can make peace with Israel. The realistic solution is to dismantle this apartheid state. And if you want to quote Amnesty, there's an Amnesty report about the apartheid state that makes it very clear that from the moment the state of Israel was established, the crime of apartheid has been perpetrated against the Palestinians in every direction. And if you want to end the suffering and the killing, you have to support the idea of a free democratic Palestine with equal rights. That's it.
Miko brings the heat, calling out systematic violence against Palestinians, likening Israeli actions to long-standing oppression, and Jake, like a deer in headlights, fumbles through decades of conflict narratives, trying to find clarity. Imagine Miko and Jake as an old couple in a buddy cop film. Miko, the seasoned detective, Jake, the bewildered rookie. It's intense, it's raveling, and yes, it's a bit entertaining. Let's jump right into it.
So let's
not pretend that you can make peace with it.
But I want good leadership on both sides. I want there to be
The Palestinian leaders are either dead or in jail. Do you want to know how many Palestinian leaders I can tell you? Israel's been assassinating and killing Palestinian leaders.
But what they did on October
decades.
7th wasn't really good leadership.
No, yes, it was. It was brilliant.
So?
They occupied, they liberated almost half of Palestine, the southern half of Palestine. They managed to completely paralyze the apartheid state.
The result is that Palestine's destroyed because Gaza's destroyed.
The vengeance with Israel. You think Israel was not going to commit an attack and murder civilians anyway? The calculation the Palestinians have to make is not whether or not civilians are going to be killed, because that's granted.
But don't
that's
you,
granted. Israel has been,
Yeah.
Israel has been committing massacres in Gaza since the Gaza Strip was established, since the early 1950s. This is nothing new. The numbers have increased. The weapons are more modern, more effective. But the idea of murdering civilians in Gaza has been part of Israeli strategy from the very beginning, from the 1950s. So Palestinians know it's a given. Civilians are going to die.
Of course,
what are they going to do with this? In October the 7th, Palestinians came out. Palestinian fighters came out of one of the poorest, most oppressed regions in the world, a place where this is a luxury. This water bottle is a luxury. Okay, and it has been for a very long time. They came out and they managed to shut down the apartheid state, to paralyze it completely. It's something that nobody was ever able to do. That is an accomplishment. You agree, you don't agree, you like, you don't like, that is an accomplishment. The military was nowhere to be found. The intelligence services were nowhere to be found. Israelis are terrified throughout the entire country. Nobody knew what the hell was going on for weeks. That is an accomplishment. You may not like it, you may not agree with it, but to come from where they came and to have that kind of a military operation, Israeli generals were commending them. Now,
so it's a victory for them to get half of Gaza destroyed? That's a victory for them?
No, you're not going to blame that on them.
What?
No.
Wait, you're saying what they did was the right thing, but the consequence wasn't?
No, so the vengeance, the murderous vengeance of Israel, murdering tens of thousands of civilians, is not the responsibility of the Palestinians. But you cannot put this. Wait a minute. You just said something.
We know that they knew that would happen.
You just said something, Jake, that you're going to have to take responsibility for. Okay. The murder of tens of thousands, of what some estimates are approaching 200,000 civilians in the Gaza Strip, is not the responsibility of the Palestinians. It's the responsibility of the state of Israel. So the last hour here, you're trying to defend. And you're trying to explain to me that it has legitimacy because I have Jewish Ashkenazi DNA.
No,
that's nonsense. That's nonsense. There is no legitimacy to this. The murder of tens of thousands and the injury of God knows how many more and the suffering of children in ways that are unimaginable, and all of this happening minutes away from Israelis who live like this, who live like this. That is not the fault of the Palestinians who came out to try to liberate their country and free their people. It's the responsibility of a vengeful gangster that was humiliated. That's what we saw. This was the response of a gangster that was humiliated and found the weakest victim they could find and murdered them by the tens of thousands, by the hundreds of thousands actually, and we're not stopping it. Instead of saying how we stop it right now, we're talking about nonsense. In the past hour, at least half the stuff we talked about was absolute nonsense.
Justin, are we getting kicked out or do we have 3 more minutes? Okay.
You know, that is complete nonsense. The only relevant thing, especially for guys that look like you and me, is how we stop it now. Not whether or not Jews had a right. Zionist means that.
Yeah.
Zionism brought genocide to Palestine, and it must be dismantled. That's the only question that's important here. That's the only issue that needs to be discussed here. Nothing else. Anything else is completely irrelevant.
But aren't the details? I mean, I think it's important to discuss.
No, these are the only details about right now. As the genocide is being perpetrated,
I want to be clear. I think you and I are
it's like saying, well, National Socialism, is National Socialism really such a bad idea? I mean, if they didn't put the Jews in ovens and burn them, then maybe it wasn't such a bad idea. I mean, maybe the initial idea of National Socialism, is not such a bad thing. I mean, they invented the Volkswagen. That's what you're talking about. That is what you are saying. That is what your conversation has been about.
My read of Zionism was not what
That's not the point. What your read of Zionism is irrelevant.
Okay.
What's important is the results of Zionism and what the Zionists have done for about 100 years. That's what's important. And where we are today is a result of that, and that needs to be dismantled and stopped.
By the way, I'm not disagreeing that what happened in Gaza is terrible. My point is...
No, you're blaming the Palestinians. You're saying the Palestinians who came on October 7th are responsible for that. That is absolutely
you know what I'd be saying
grotesque.
Right now? You know what I'd be saying right now if I was in Gaza?
It's grotesque.
Let me say one thing.
You don't know what you'd be saying if you were in Gaza. Okay. You would not be. You would not. You do not know because you've never been in that position.
What I think. Here's what I'm saying now, sitting here. I see all the destruction in Gaza, and I say, "Oh, wow! I wish Israel didn't do that." And then I say, "Well, oh gosh, I also wish that Hamas didn't do what they did because Israel responded the way they did." We knew that was going to happen.
It was going to happen whether Hamas did what they did or not.
You think that Israel would have randomly gone into Gaza and killed 45,000
They've been doing
people?
it for
45,000, not 45,000 people.
They've been doing it for decades. And 2 years ago, let me tell you something. For years, I've been saying that this is coming.
Okay.
Now, the fact that they waited, that they did it when they did it is immaterial. The murder and the genocide would have been taking place anyway.
Yeah.
The attacks on Palestinian people is nothing new. It didn't start on October the 7th or October the 8th. There's a history, particularly in Gaza, of massacres that began in the 1950s. Gaza is an eyesore. And you can't. And Israel is in a conundrum. You can't dismantle it and allow people back because we don't want the Arabs, the Palestinians back. You can't kill all of you. What are you going to do with them? You can't do nothing because people are saying, "Why do you have 2 million people in a concentration camp when you cramp to be a democracy?" So somebody came out with the idea: let's murder them and say it's their fault. And that's exactly what you're repeating now. We're to murder them
causality.
and say that it's their fault because they're terrorists. No, that's not the causality. It's the other way around. There's no causality here. The murder of Palestinians
causality flows. There's causality
don't get philosophical with me.
I'm thirsty, so I drink, and then I have to pee, and then I'm thirsty again, so I drink.
Don't get cute with me.
But I'm saying we can't look at it.
Get cute
Miko,
with
if we look
That's
at a chain of 35 events, we only look at
the
one.
murder of Palestinians had nothing to do. Years ago, I've been saying this for years. Israel is going to go to Gaza and commit a massive
for no
massacre.
Reason? Just out of. Do you think? Okay, let me ask a question. October 8th, they wouldn't have done what they done had there not been. Let's say I'm not even blaming Hamas. I'm saying
they would have done it one way or the other.
As a supporter of Palestine, I wish Hamas hadn't done what they did because then Israel.
That's nonsense. That's nonsense. That's absolute nonsense. Again, you're blaming the victim for the consequences. You're blaming the wrong side. You're blaming the victim. That's what you're doing again, and you've been doing this for the last hour. You keep going back to blame the victim for what is happening to the victim.
No, it's
the murder of Palestinians in Gaza began in the 1950s. I've been saying this I don't know how many times already. The weapons have improved and the numbers have grown. But this has been a trend. This has been part of Israeli strategy from the very beginning to try to reduce and mow the lawn. So this time they did it. And for years I've been saying this. We haven't seen anything yet. A friend of mine that was just murdered in Gaza, targeted, a journalist by the name of Wafa al-Odaini. She was just about a week ago. She was killed with her 2 children and her husband. Their house was targeted. And so after she died, I was looking through WhatsApp, some of the conversations that we've had. And about, I don't know what it was, a year and a half or so ago, she wished me happy birthday. I wrote her back. She said, "So what do you think is going to happen now?" I said, "There's a catastrophe upon us. There's going to be a huge catastrophe. If the international community does not intervene and stop Israel and dismantle this regime, there's going to be a catastrophe of unparalleled proportions. And this is what this is."
Yeah.
So the fact that they waited and this happened first or this happened second is not the issue. Palestinian resistance is one thing. Israeli genocide is another. And the Israeli genocide has to be stopped. And the way to stop it is to completely dismantle it. And don't go back again and say, yes, but it's their fault.
I'm not going to go back again.
Good.
I hope that you and Gideon Levy can get together and show me the way. We're going to wrap up in 30 seconds, Justin. Yeah, and I really appreciate this.
I appreciate you appreciate it, but you got to stop saying that you're naive and you're confused because I don't believe you are.
I'm actually not that well read on this.
That's not the point. You don't have to be read.
Well,
You're intelligent
my
enough
whole
to
life,
see.
My whole life, you probably know what my upbringing was, right? I was given a narrative that I've now,
You and me
since
both.
marrying into a Palestinian American family, I'm trying to work through and readjust.
Good
And
for
this is
you.
my process
That's
of working
great.
through.
Well, that's good, and I appreciate you inviting me and doing this. But you're not. I don't believe that you're confused, because there's nothing here to be confused about. You're a smart guy. There's nothing here to be confused about. This is very simple. It's not easy, but it's very simple. There's an injustice of the worst kind. There's a murder of civilians. There's a horrific genocide, and we know who's starting it and who's committing it. So stop legitimizing the state of Israel and stop legitimizing Zionism. Stop looking for excuses to legitimize it, because that is wrong. That makes you even more complicit.
Wow, what a conversation. Miko didn't hold back, diving deep into the harsh realities and laying out a clear case for justice and accountability. Meanwhile, Jake, well, it seems like he couldn't quite grasp the gravity of Miko's points. It's not complicated, Jake. Miko made it simple: dismantling apartheid, ending genocide, and pushing for a real freedom and equality. This isn't just about politics, it's about human lives. Here at Zees Political Couch, we enjoy exposing the truth and cutting through the noise. Please don't forget to like, comment down below, and subscribe, where we enjoy bringing these bold videos to light. Catch you guys in the next one.